So today's session, this is the second session in the technical training series, and today we're going to talk about the organization chart, and we're also going to discuss one of my favorite topics, which is organizational strategy. So I'm going to start here back at the dashboard. So when someone logs into TouchStone, this is always going to be the first thing you see. It's called the dashboard. And underneath this control panel header, a control panel should be assigned. So once you set up users and account administration, make sure that you go that extra step of assigning a control panel to that particular position or person. That's what makes this position title appear. So this is all controlled by the organization chart itself. So when I go to account administration and I assign one of my employees to a position in the company, so it appears here on the org chart, I'm literally looking at my organization chart and choosing that position from the chart. In addition, management review, this area of the dashboard is also controlled by the org chart in a sense. So these people, my employees here that I've set up in account administration, given them usernames and passwords to TouchStone, TouchStone knows what position they fill in the company and in TouchStone because I assign them to that role on the org chart. So these two people here are bookkeepers. These three people here are customer service positions. And this one person here is a receptionist. So the org chart is kind of a fundamental tool to the organization of TouchStone because, again, it shows anybody who's looking at it what position they fill on the org chart. And if they're managers, it shows them which positions or people they manage. So let's go back here to the org chart. So this is a relatively small chart. Some of you have much bigger charts. Some of you have small charts. I can click on the white space here and this little bubble appears, and then I can move the chart back and forth and up and down. I can also zoom to zoom it in and zoom it out. The zoom gets wildly crazy if you don't have a mouse. So if you're on a laptop and you're trying to zoom in and out with your finger pad, you'll notice the chart goes whipping back and forth. We don't have a solution for that yet, although it's on the table to keep looking for a solution. If your chart goes wild and gets really small or really big like this, just refresh your screen and it's going to pop back to its normal size. Each box on the chart is controlled with these little three dots. So with these little three dots in the bottom right corner of every position, I can edit the title of the position. So I choose edit, and then I'm seeing the position field here. And I'm also seeing the objective of the position when I do that. And I'll show you what that means on the job description page. But through hitting that little dot and hitting edit, I can edit the title of this position. Also with the little three dots, I can add a new position, or I can remove or delete the position that I'm on. You'll never be able to delete the top box. So if you do want to delete this box, you'll need to move your positions around so that this top box becomes not the top box. So I'll show you an example of that. So let's say I want to delete this owner's box. I would have to take each department and move it underneath the owner's box. So I'm moving this one too, and I'm just dragging it right on top. And so now I can delete this box, this president box, and then edit this to president. So that is only under circumstances where you want to delete that very top box. So you don't want to have an owners or board of directors box. You just want to have president. So all I did was take these three major departments here and move them under this top box, therefore allowing me to eliminate the middle box, or what would have been the top box at that point. So these little three dots control everything. the functionality or the editability of positions on the org chart. You saw how I was moving positions around or moving whole departments around. So all I did was hold my mouse click right here, and you can see this kind of shadow box going around. I put it right on top of the box I want to, or inside of the box I want to move this position under. And then you can see it falls down to that row. If I move this one back, to move it back, just right inside of the box I want it under, I can take the whole department and move it. And that's in fact what happens when you move a managerial position. So if I took this and drug it over here, the whole tree is going to go with it. If I didn't intend that, then I would just have to take the bottom box or whatever one I didn't want to move and move it back. So it's basically dragging and dropping the positions or departments around, allows you to reorganize the positions. So little 3 dots inside of every box. I can edit the title, I can add a new box, or I can delete the box. So let's add a box. So you can see it throws it over here and calls it defaults to untitled. So once I add this box, I can then click here and choose edit, and then I put the name of the position in. So that's how I get access to edit the title to what I want it to be. Or I can click right on it, and it takes me to what we call the job description for that position. So every box on the chart, when you click it, it takes you to this screen, which would eventually be the job description for that position. So this would ultimately be a list of the processes that this position is responsible for. So click Untitled right here, and then this allows me to put the new name in, and then I save it. Under here, I can add an objective to the position. This is the purpose of the position. This is the result of the position. It's the reason it exists. It's like, I feel like it's great if every person, every role in a business could say in one sentence what their purpose is. What are they there to achieve? And that is what should go in this objective field. If I was to now go and delete this new box I just put in, so if I hit these little 3 dots and I choose remove, I'm going to get one chance to change my mind here. If I say okay, now that position, that box is gone. What's the consequence of that? Well, the only consequence is when you have already built the job description. So if you had gone to the position and this is an example of a job description that's been built. So these are all processes that come from the 4 key functions and are linked to these boxes on the chart. So if I had done this already, like this one, and I remove this position or delete it, then this list is going to be gone. It doesn't mean the processes are gone. These processes have been linked to this box on the chart. They don't live there ultimately. The place they live is over here on the 4 key functions. So if I click this process called customer complaints, you can see from the breadcrumb trail here that this is in the 4 key functions in the operations sub-function or key function. So I can remove it from this job description by hitting remove, or I can delete this whole position if I want. And these processes don't just disappear. The only thing that disappears is this box where they're all linked. Let's go back to the org chart. So the chart's pretty simple to use. The functionality is pretty straightforward. When on the dashboard where you saw that control panel that I assigned and the management review area, all that happened was somebody went into account administration over here who had the right rights to do that and assigned me this role, the manager of admin and finance. Because all of these 5 boxes are underneath me on the org chart, I would see whoever's been assigned to each one of these roles. So that's what I meant by the org chart kind of influences the dashboard. This is my position from the chart, and these are all of the people that report to me. Now I can have multiple people, employees filling one role. You can see that here. There's 2 bookkeepers and there's 3 customer service people. All that's happened is these 3 people in account administration have been assigned this one role called customer service. But on the org chart, I don't have 3 customer service boxes here. I don't have 2 bookkeeper boxes. And the reason is if you create it that way, then your chart's going to be exponentially bigger than it really needs to be, and it's less user friendly. And there's no reason for it. So if you have multiple people filling the same role, if you really want to, you could go to this position and I could put like a number 3 here in the title if I wanted to. I've also seen people put names here, which I don't particularly like because it kind of clutters up the box and I'll show you, it kind of clutters up the box on the org chart, and it cuts off too. So it won't display all of the names that you put in here. I understand the tendency to want to do that, but a better way is to just assign those people's names to this box on the chart, and then dashboard tells the whole story. The dashboard will always show these 3 people. And in fact, it starts to look really redundant and a little sloppy because you can see here, this is pulling the title of that position from the org chart. And if you start to put a lot of extra detail in this box, then it looks a little messy here. And then you can clearly see why it's redundant because these are the people filling this role. Having said that, the chart is, your chart to use. So you can put whatever kind of titles that you want in. Just understand kind of what the visual situation will be when you do that. Let's see, anything else about technically using the chart? You can collapse positions by hitting this little negative sign. Close, close. So for whatever reason, I wanted people who I was showing this chart to just see this structure, because maybe we're talking about just the managerial structure. I might collapse these down. Or if you wanted to show just one department, you could collapse the positions down. So that's what these little pluses and negatives are here. This little magnifying glass here will allow you to search. This is only helpful with people who have huge charts. So I'm clicking here and you can see sales assistant pops up or salesperson, and then it kind of blips and takes you over to that position. So if you have a big chart you have to like scroll twice this way to see the whole thing, that's a quick way to get to zero in on one position. Inside of TouchStone, the organization chart itself has a big purpose. And how to use it as a business strategy tool has an even bigger purpose, but its basic fundamental purpose for the use of TouchStone is kind of inconsequential to everyday employees. And that's because over here on the dashboard, this is what your employees are interested in. They want to know that they can go right to their position and they can see all the processes that they're responsible for. If they're a manager, they're going to want to know they can go right to their subordinate positions and see all the processes they're responsible for and use those processes to train, to manage, to correct. The org chart shows the hierarchy and what positions report to who, and it is a great strategy tool. But at the end of the day, your employees may not come to the org chart itself very often. When they do come here, if they have restricted access, they'll be able to see the chart, but the positions that will be illuminated are the ones that they will have access to. So I just like to throw that out there because sometimes people get hung up on having people's names or whatever else the situation is, and forget that at the end of the day, the dashboard is really what is going to help you to implement and use this organization structure and all the processes in TouchStone. Let's see, anything else about this? I don't think so. Oh, printing. So I often get, we often get requests for printing an org chart. We have people within Business Design Corp that their sole responsibility is building processes, doing process migration for new TouchStone users, where we'll take like existing org charts and processes and enter them into TouchStone for you. And they'll also, with Photoshop, make you a chart if you'd like. In lieu of that, the best way to print the chart is to use a snipping tool and take a picture of it. So this is in the way. Let me move it down. This is the snipping tool. This is one I use when I'm in a hurry, but what I really, there's one called Snagit, which is way better, but this is a snipping tool that's inside of the Windows operating system. And I know Macs have their own version of this. So I just hit new, and then I just take a picture of the chart like this, and then print it. So this is the prettiest way to print the chart. But you are going to run across the issue of your printer paper not being big enough. So this is the fundamental issue of printing things like this that come on the internet. Well, printing anything for that matter, anything that you would do, you would publish. We all normally have regular printers. So you can do maybe legal paper and get it long. You can, once you go to print this, I think file print, it'll open up your local printer settings like here, and I can probably go and change the paper size and all of that, but you've got to have a printer that complies with that. So that's a way to print the whole chart. Close. If I want to print just a department, I could always collapse this right like this, and then take my snipping tool and take a picture of this, and then that might be a way to like visualize it or have it available if you want to show it to you're the manager of a department and you want to show people what the department structure looks like and print it for them. So that's my story on printing. You can scroll it small and get it to like small enough that you can still read the boxes, then take the screenshot and print it. But as you can see, and I'm sure everyone's aware, there's no magic to this. There's no way of doing this, at least that we can think of, that when it gets too small, that it won't degrade the print itself. Okay. So let's talk about why the organization chart is important and how, as managers, as business owners, you can use it for the management and development of your department, or if you're the owner of the company, for your whole company. So first thing is, this chart shows some basic things about any business. It shows what departments you have. So sales, operations, office, admin, finance. It shows who your management team is. So this is my senior management team, you might say, these 4 positions. And then I have some second rung manager at second management team, which is the sales lead, senior tech, lead warehouse. So this management structure is really important, and the org chart lays that out for you. In a way, it shows who's accountable for what. So here in this whole department, we see position titles. But once your job descriptions are built, so every process, all the work that each of these positions is responsible for here is listed in that job description, is assigned to that role, we can see who's accountable for what work, which is very important and often gets confused in a growing company. So it shows us departments, it shows us management level, it shows us accountabilities. It also speaks to communication within the business. So if I know who fills the sales role and what work they do, and I'm over here being a senior tech, and I have an issue with something the salesperson's doing, I know I go to my manager, and then my manager may go to the sales manager. Or depending on your culture, the senior tech may go right to the salesperson. So these line relationships and lines of communication are demonstrated on the org chart and allow you to interpret that and to train your employees in what types of communication are okay and what to do if there's issues. You also see the flow of work through the org chart. So this is where the sales come in, the leads are generated, and then they're put here in operations where they're delivered. Your services are provided, products are provided, and over here is kind of where all of that is quantified in a way. So all the sales, the leads, the expenses, the costs of delivery, how long it took, all of that is supported over here with paperwork and filing and computer support and bookkeeping and admin support. And then it's quantified through financial reports, which are then given back to these two departments to let them know how their work is going. So this org chart is a complete analysis of all of that, if you think about it that way. There are whole disciplines in business schools around organizational strategy and design and theory. But for a small business owner, it can be very simple. Structure, department, communications, accountability. So let's talk about some of the fundamentals of building a good chart. And then I'll talk about some different ways to use the organization chart day to day. So typically, I would see an owner or board of directors box here at the top. Underneath that, I would see a president, a general manager, a CEO. To me, the words aren't important, or the titles and how you title things. Sometimes you want to be more corporate, so you might say CEO, CMO, COO, or you want to be less formal, so you might say general manager. But these two boxes are fundamentally important, important hierarchy at the top of an org chart. So the owner is the board of directors, the shareholders. It can be one person, it could be multiple people. This is an important role. And when people ask how to delete this top box, I always try to talk them out of it. And it's because you in that box as owner, as shareholder, as chairman of the board, your job in this role is to maximize the value of the business. That's what it is. So you are thinking about things that all the other people down here are not thinking about. You're thinking about things up here that the president doesn't think about. You're thinking of things up here that definitely this management team doesn't think about. These people below the top line are generally worried about answering the phone, maybe building a plan, making sure the money's there. They're worried about the managerial and the technical activities of the business. They're also a little preoccupied with themselves and their own role and their own agenda. Whereas this person up here thinks solely about, what if I sold this business today? What would it be worth? And how can I make it worth more? How can I create a business that gives me a dividend for owning it and not just working in it? So when you delete this box, you're deleting an opportunity to kind of think, what processes and what work do I need to do as the owner? Below the owner is the president. This is the person who implements the strategies of the owners up here, of the shareholders, and manages the key departments below. So this person is responsible for strategy and management, implementation of strategy and management of managers who then manage others. And that's a really important role. So management is what, in my opinion, what makes a business successful or not, in a way. I get a lot of questions from TouchStone users about, why I can't get my employees to use TouchStone. I told them to document the processes and they're not doing it. I documented all these processes, but nobody's using it. I built this checklist and I explained it to them and I told them to use it and then they didn't. I document the process, but then everyone does it their own way anyway. They're refusing to use it. They don't want to follow it. The answer to all of those problems is better management. So, and I'm going to make the theme of this session and sessions to come, how to have successful management. So this management level here, these three positions, if what I'm saying is true, are essential to the success of the business itself. And this person, the president, mentors, develops, and then make sure that these people are managing their company. So starting from left to right here, sales and marketing, this is obvious. This is about getting qualified leads generated and converting those leads. So you want to make sure you have positions within this department that represent those two goals: generating leads, advertising, marketing support, coordination, social media, whatever your lead generation activities are, and then sales. Qualified leads get generated. You spend X amount of dollars on that. They get funneled into salespeople. They use sales processes to convert those leads, and your business grows. If only it was that simple. But for the org chart, it is. You want to think about those main results and create positions that will achieve those results. The getting the business function and the 4 key functions over here lays over this whole department. So every process that you list in getting the business, all those lead generation processes, advertising, marketing strategy, all that is done by these people. So if you think about it that way, you can quantify it in your mind a little more. Marketing is not necessarily an art, it's also a science. And there are numbers that your activities, your processes would generate. And knowing those numbers helps you grow, helps you increase sales, and helps you increase leads. When the sales are all generated and converted, it falls onto this department. This is operations. And your version of this might be service delivery, production, construction, restaurant operations, whatever your industry is. This department here delivers your products or services. Now, if something is sold over here for a certain amount of money and it's given to these people here to deliver, they've got to deliver it with a certain amount of time and production or material, time and material. If they don't, then that's when you start to lose money. So structuring this department appropriately is really important, and it starts with the organization chart. So one technique that I think is great is what you're seeing right here. So this is levels. This is my entry level. This is my junior level. This is my senior level. You can even do it in sales and marketing. This is my associate level or my entry level, and then these are my senior salespeople. If I hire someone in here, they may not be having a conversion rate of 70%, which is what these people have. So that statistic, that key indicator, whatever that is for you, when you hire someone new here, they maybe have a 20% conversion rate. But once they learn these processes and move up here, they've got to have a 70% conversion rate. Here, it's the same kind of thing. If I hire someone as an apprentice, journeyman, entry level, they may not be as productive as this lead position should be. And this lead position may not be as productive as this senior tech would be. But the thing that this allows you to see is the truth of it. Because oftentimes, business owners want to hire senior people just right off the line. Put an ad in, I get a senior person who sits here, and there are, their gross profit's great, they're 100% productivity and efficiency. Or I want to hire this salesperson right here. I don't want to deal with these people down here. I want to hire someone that gets 70% right away. This is where you start to hear yourself say things like, well, we can't find any good people. I put an ad in and nobody applies. Everybody's terrible. We get people in for recruiting and there's no one that, can do it in the way that we want them to. We hire people right here and we expect them to be here in 1 week. And then you're saying things like, well, why isn't that person efficient? And why are they making so many mistakes? It's the expectation. And it's the thought that you can just find great people without having to grow your own talent from within. So growing your own talent from within is the best way to have controlled growth and profitable growth and scale. This word's thrown about all the time. Scaling means being able to replicate and duplicate what you're doing over and over again, grow. So in order to do that, you can't rely on putting ads out and hoping to get senior techs every time. You have to have your own path with this. I have to have them enter here and then move up here and then move up here. I want to know what kind of qualifications a person needs to enter here at the apprentice level. And then I need to know that I have processes in place, training in place that's going to grow them here, along with experience, watching other people. I don't minimize any of that. The procedures, the documentation gets you, a head start with all that, but sometimes you need growth and experience. And then the people are here, then they're going to move up here. And I need to know how long that's going to take. So how long it's going to take to hire someone at a reasonable qualification expectation, and then grow them up to here. Because the minute I know how long that's going to take, then I know what it's going to cost, right? And then I know what it's really going to cost to grow the business. Sales or admin finance over here. This position, I suppose it can be part of admin finance. I would normally see the customer support like maybe here under operations. Sometimes I see it over here in, I didn't grab that, over here in sales. It kind of just depends on what your philosophy of this is. So do you think it's an admin role, customer service? Then it belongs here. It's kind of just an admin role to me means that it's helping everyone else be better. It's an administrative role. It's like a salary rather than a position that's going to affect sales. It's a support role. If it's here, customer service is in sales and marketing, then my philosophy is service is related to sales. So when someone has sold something, if it's not delivered correctly, it goes back to sales. If it's here, then I would see it more as a product improvement position. So anyway, that's a long-winded talk about customer service, but it could float and be in any department, really. So back to admin finance, this is the support department. So everything within this department is in support of the rest of the company. Their primary role is to make everybody else's lives better. And if that should be the expectation, that these people provide services and support and reports and computers and phones and HR qualified candidates to interview, filing, bookkeeping, any reports on productivity. So these people provide all that excellent information to all these people over here, which allows them to operate profitably. So to the degree that this department isn't providing all those services is the same degree that the rest of these people aren't being efficient. And that's unfortunate because these people are increasing sales and these people are delivering. So they're income generating, like they're the departments that has the business grow. So if this department is not knowing what leads are costing, not knowing what their conversion rate is, not being able to get good candidates to interview, their computers break down and they're stuck because they don't have a CRM, or these people, they don't know what their job cost is because there are no reports being analyzed and reviewed. They have no idea what their gross profit is because that's not being calculated correctly. So that's this department. And you can see how it really could make or break efficiency. This is overhead though, right? So it's important to get the balance right between the income generating positions and the overhead. So the best way to approach your chart is think about these realities and then create a vision for your business. Imagine your business a couple years out and then build the chart as a picture of that business in the future. So this is, I'm sure you've heard this technique before. TouchStone, the TouchStone infrastructure supports this idea and is built to do this and help you to do it. So you take a chart, you don't draw it for what you have now, you draw it for the future. So you build an organization chart for what your business is going to be in 2 years. Then you think of the sales that you want in 2 years and you start to construct each of the departments. So if I want to grow from 5 to 10 million, I've got to double somehow. So this department's got to generate more leads and convert them better. If I want to grow to 10 million, then I have to have an operations department which can support 10 million in sales. So it's this constant juggling act between sales and operations and sales and operations. It's almost like the more you have of this, the more you need of this. But if you don't have enough of this, then all of this lays dormant and you're wasting money by having trained operations sitting there with not enough to do. So that's what I mean by the juggling act. You have to make sure as sales come in over here that you have the positions to support them over here. If sales aren't coming in and you grow operations too quickly, then you're going to be sitting on a bunch of overhead with not enough things to keep them busy. And then if you start pushing at the sales department to get more leads, get more sales, but then this department isn't ready for all of that, then you've got a lot of mistakes happening, a lot of inefficiency. So this juggling act, TouchStone, this org chart can help you with that. Rather than just feeling like, ooh, I need more people, you can plan it out better. You can think about what your version of this is: entry level, lead, senior, how long that would take. You can think about having advertising positions that are going to start to bolster leads, and then those leads will get converted at a certain rate. And then how much time is it going to take you to get a person from here to here? So build the chart for the future. Think about good organizational practices in the future. So even if you don't have this row of managers now, then plan for that in the future. These managers quantify and manage the positions underneath them for each department. And in order for those departments to function correctly, they need a manager. And in a growing, fast-growing business, the president can't be all of this. So plan for those positions in the future. If you have a future position and maybe you or someone else is filling multiple roles on the org chart until you grow to the right size where you can hire that position in, then you can put that in the position title. I like to see that. So here, let's say we don't have a customer support position yet, but we're going to hire that in Q3 of 23, something like that. You can put that date right here in the position title. And then what that kind of shows everyone who sees the chart and is always a reminder to you that this is an empty position right now, but this is the hire date that we're planning for. So think of this future chart, put people's names in boxes for who's doing what now, and then plan to your future hires. So this is yet another way that this org chart can be beneficial in a business strategy. You have a vision, you build the chart for the future. You then put people's names in boxes for what they're doing now, what roles are they filling now. One person's name might be in 2 or 3 boxes. I might have one manager here, office manager, who's also the bookkeeper and also the HR position at this point. But when we grow to 2025, these would have future hire dates in them. So having people's names in multiple boxes is fine. In fact, it helps create organization where sometimes there's chaos. So what I mean is you may have an office manager named Sally, and she's so awesome at her job. She's like doing bookkeeping and she's answering the phones and she's doing the employee handbook, and she might even be handling some customer service issues that come up, and she's qualifying leads as they're coming in from advertising. So she's like your everywhere person and is so great at her job. Well, the real story of what's going on with Sally is she's probably going home every day just feeling frantic and overwhelmed. Multitasking isn't necessarily a good thing. It's somebody who's very stressed out. They're jumping all around, trying to do the best they can to fill all of these needs. This person's yelling at her from over here saying, you know, what's happening with this lead coming in, when she's really told this person she's going to get the financial statements ready, and you can just see it's chaotic. And she's going to get burned out eventually. Furthermore, what if something happens to her? What if she decides to move? What if she quits one day? Then you're in a real mess, right? Because you've got this person who is doing all of these things. And when that person is gone, then all that knowledge is gone. So this is called people dependency. So an answer to that is to use your organization chart to help organize what those people are doing. So we know Sally is here in this role, and we've put processes on this job description which demonstrate what that position is accountable for, not necessarily her, what this position is accountable for in the future. Then we do the same for receptionist. We do the same for bookkeeper. We've got a list of all the processes that the bookkeeper does. We're documenting those processes over time. And then when you grow to the point that you can hire the bookkeeper, then Sally gets out of that box and moves back into the management box, and you have a new position here. And then you do the same for receptionist, and you do the same for HR. You do the same for customer service. But in the meantime, we have 5 boxes that Sally is filling on the org chart. And it helps her to compartmentalize things. It helps her to see, okay, now today on Tuesdays, I'm going to do my bookkeeping work. And then on Fridays and Thursdays, I'm going to do the HR work. And then, so it helps her to organize it. So she's not feeling so frantic. And then when someone over here comes to her with a new need, she can say, that's not my role. That's not my position. It's very complicated when somebody is spanning the org chart. So she's doing some lead generation here. She's doing customer service, and she's all of this. It's very difficult. I would actually suggest if there's any way when you build your future org chart and you put people's names in the boxes that you could eliminate that. So it's okay in a growing business to have her here, all these boxes, but try to fill this need with someone else in this department. Try to fill this lead qualification need, advertising need with someone in this department. Because when you're asking a person to span not agendas, there's no uniformity of work. That's how I want to say it. There's this whole study in efficiency planning where uniformity of work is what breeds efficiency. So if her role is support over here, and now her role over here is sell, and here she's like service, it's very inefficient. So when you do your future chart, put names in boxes for what everyone's doing now. Fill in dates of hire over the next 2 years for when you want to get people's names just in one box, and then try to remove any lack of uniformity of work. Try to pull people and keep them within each of the departments. Another thing to avoid right away is having 2 people in the same box. Now, if you have 5 salespeople, that's a different story. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is if I have 2 people who are the operations manager, or I have one person who's the sales and marketing manager, who's also the operations manager, and then does some part-time bookkeeping. Then we have Sally, who's the office manager, and she's also bookkeeping. So 2 people's name in one box in that situation doesn't work, because if one person isn't accountable, then nobody is accountable. And you're also competing with this lack of uniformity of work. So if you've gotten in a situation where maybe your best salesperson over here, you got promoted them to manager, but they're so bogged down with sales, they don't have time to manage. And so you as the president steps in here every once in a while and is the manager too. That doesn't work. You're competing with each other. The bottom line is you're the manager because you're the president, and everybody knows that. So you're squashing on the, on the authority of the excellent salesperson that you made sales and marketing manager. So with this redesign or building of the org chart, use that as an opportunity to tell that sales manager, let's have you be lead sales again. I'm going to develop the processes for this position where as we grow, then you'll have an opportunity to move up to that position. It's better to say, oops, I was wrong when I did that. It really came from a good intention. It's not working. And I'll bet you the person is relieved in the end. So again, the steps for the org chart: have a vision, We have a great process over here called strategic planning. I believe that's what it's called. And the guiding the business function that can help you build a vision for your business. Doesn't have to be a big, long, complicated business plan, just a vision. Where are you going to grow? What amount do you want to grow to? How big do you want to be? What are the numbers going to look like in 2 years? Then sit with your org chart and build that as a picture of the future. Build this as a $10 million company. Put your hat on as owner. Like relieve all the agendas of all the people and the personalities and the issues and the people you're loyal to and family members and whatever else mess is going on. Just don't think about that and look at the chart and say, how would I build this so it's the most valuable, so it works the best, so it has uniformity of work, it has appropriate management structure? How would I build it? Don't think about people, think about positions and structure. Once you've built the chart, then take your people at that point and kind of lay them over the chart. Who's doing what now? Then think if there's corrections you need to make right away. Not in 2 years, like right away. So you've got 2 people in one box, or you've got a person spanning work across the company. You've got some chaos that isn't serving you because you're looking at it in a new way. And then rearrange a little bit if you need to. Plan in your budget as you grow, what positions you're going to hire and in what order. So we talked. I'm going to do a process of the week before we end here, which I think is a really great one. But before we do that, I just want to talk about this kind of technique in an organization chart, this growing your own talent from within. I think it's a really important concept, and there's the dashboard tools can support this. So each box on the chart has a job description. So this is the apprentice technician, and these are the 5 things that person does. Try to keep it simple. If you're looking at your 4 key functions that we talked about last week and you've got 500 processes, that's wrong. So there's too many. So keep the jobs as simple as possible. Try to keep the processes concise. There's not a system for there's not a process for every single thing that everybody does. There is structure and there is processes for a lot of things, but you're not going to be able to capture every single thing that every person does. So focus on the top 20%. That might be a good way to look at it. So this apprentice technician needs to learn these 5 things when they're hired. If I have a competent person, how much time is it going to teach? Am I going to need to train them in how to do their daily to-do list, how to clock their hours, how to do labor management and productivity, how to do purchasing technical equipment, how to do customer satisfaction? How long are each of those processes going to take to train to a competent person? So once I have that answer, then I go to the next position. All the processes are laid out here. This is everything that the lead tech needs to know how to do. So it folds on itself. The lead tech, it's assumed that they know how to do all the processes of the position down here. So the apprentice tech's processes don't need to be on the lead tech's job description. It's assumed that they know that because they grow from here to here. So same thing with senior tech. What are the processes that person needs to learn and know? So through this very objective analysis, I can see the processes for each of these positions, and I can put timing to it. And then I could tell you how much time it's going to take a person from here to here. You take the hours that you're going to spend training them. You take their hours in the field, or whatever your version of that is, time. You times it by what you're paying them with a certain percentage of overhead. And then suddenly you know it's going to take $10,000 to bring someone from here to here. And then you know it's going to take another 10 from here to here. So to build senior technicians, it's going to cost $20,000. It might be difficult to look at it that way. You might swallow and say, wow, that's a lot of money. How am I going to do that? Well, that's when it's time to focus over here on how to grow, how to increase advertising and sales to grow. The reality of this, even though you don't like it, it's still there. There's no way around it. I mean, you can pretend that you're going to find senior technicians and enough of them to help you to grow as much as you want to grow, but you're going to be banging your head against the wall all the time. You might get lucky and find one or two, but the reality is, to grow consistently and controllably, you have to have this down to a certain degree. Another thing that happens if you don't have a situation like this is you tend to live with people's issues. So you may hire this senior tech and that person's so great, but they show up late all the time and they don't listen to what their manager is saying and they don't turn their paperwork in and they have a bad attitude. But you have to live with it, right? Because you need that person. And that's a terrible spot to be in. If you have a bookkeeper and this person is, makes a lot of mistakes and then, doesn't show up one day, and you suffer, and the rest of the department suffer with the inefficiencies and the ineffectiveness of that position. And we often keep those people because we don't see a way out of it. It's too hard. But if you know what it's going to cost you, then you can make more accurate and clear decisions. On the dashboard, we're going to talk a lot more about the dashboard functionality as we keep going forward. But here you can actually see what happened when I moved customer service. See, I just did this to myself, but this is good for people to see. You see how it's gone here now? It's because I took away the accountability or the department that this position fell in. So if I drag it back, now it's here. Now I'm the manager of this position again. And if I go back to the dashboard, I'm going to see the customer service here. So here on the dashboard, just one quick thing, and then I have 5 minutes to do the process of the week. I can set this up to create that reality that I was showing on the org chart. So if I hired this customer service position and I have planned this out, and it may not be perfect because I've never done it before, but this is my plan. These are all the processes that John needs to learn. And I took these processes and I made these little training groups out of them. And I decided how long it's going to take to learn those things. So this is time management, week 1, all these processes. This is customer service training, week 2, these processes. This is administration that position does, these 3 processes. These are just additional resources and things that this person needs to know how to do. And I lumped all of these here, and I've said these are going to take a week for him to learn. So with these 4 weeks combined, I'm going to pay John X amount of dollars of a salary. I can then figure out how much it's going to cost me to fully train and hire a customer service person. Now, when John starts in for the first week, I can assign him all of these processes. He'll get a notification saying, she wants you to learn and study all 4 of these processes. They'd go into TouchStone, they'd read them, study them, follow them, watch the videos, mark them as complete as they did it, and the manager gets a notification saying that those things have been done. So this is a way to kind of track each week's training. Now, some positions may require more hand-holding than that, like maybe the manager needs to sit down every day with that person for this first week and talk about each of the processes as they study them. But this is giving you that control of knowing how much time it's going to take. It's also allowing you to see if you made a good hire or not. Hopefully you did, but it's going to allow you to see if you didn't, because if John gets through this first week and into the second week and he's not getting it, like he didn't learn these things and he's making a lot of mistakes and I don't like the way he's doing, I can say, thanks, John, and on to the next person. I don't feel so invested in keeping him when I know, because of the processes, he's not going to be able to learn it the way he needs to. So more on this as we start to get into the other sessions, but I just wanted to show you how the dashboard functionality supports this idea here of training people from entry level up to senior. Over here in the 4 key functions, there is a process that you can pull from the library right here. So I'm in guiding the business, and it's called management philosophy development. So don't roll your eyes. I know what people are thinking, but I'm going to make a case for this. So it's right here in the library. You can download it. This process is creating a vision for management. Now, you heard me say that I think bad management is the culprit of a lot of issues in every small business. It is. The management philosophy, the building of it, helps you create a vision for management, which you can then support with actual processes that your managers use. When I graduated from business school, I went to work for Michael Gerber right out of business school. I already knew that my senior year that I was going to go work for him. And when I got hired there, I started writing business plans. That's where they put, people in my category. It's the first thing that you would do. So business owners would apply. We would create these fancy business plans for them. The difference between a regular business plan that I learned how to do in college and what I learned working for Michael Gerber is that the business plans we created had a vision in them, right? It had a strategic objective, he called it, which was, what is the plan for the business? What is the vision? And then every element of the vision, we identified processes that needed to be developed in order for that vision to come true. So every aspect of the vision had a corresponding outline or graph, which showed if you're going to be able to do this, then you need this process documented and this process documented. So with that philosophy in mind, the management philosophy can do this very thing and help you to really improve your management. So there's a work plan in here called How to Build a Management Philosophy. There's actually a clip here of Michael Gerber. And maybe next week I'll have time to play it if people haven't seen it yet. This process has been enhanced. So if you already have a management philosophy process that you downloaded already, just edit the title of it a little bit, and then you'll be able to go back to Guiding the Business and download it again. So this just takes you through a step-by-step. And then the value of it really is here in these documents. So these documents are just examples. So this is a management philosophy. This we actually created with our AI, short and concise, 10 things here. Then there's some that are a little bit more elaborate. So it's more of a narrative with, a lot of elements to it. There's some benefits down here. So toggle through these and kind of get an idea of what a finished management philosophy looks like. Then there's a document right here, which will be blank. It says XYZ Company Management Philosophy. So this is for you to build yours. So you would just edit the title and then you'd write it out right here. You make it a public process and you've got your management philosophy. So here's an example of what I was talking about, that I learned at eMyth writing business plans. If you have a management philosophy like this that says, we value our employees, they're the heart of the organization, we prioritize their well-being and development, we recognize that a motivated and engaged workforce is the key to achieving our goals. People first. What is a process that you're going to put in place that's going to teach your managers how to do this? So everything needs to be thought of that way. All these philosophies and visions that you put forward, but particularly this management philosophy. So in order to make employees feel like they're valued and listened to, and that we care about their growth, well, that speaks to the employee one-on-one meeting process. And that's a process that you can also find in the library where managers meet with their employees 15 minutes, half an hour at the most every week. There's an agenda that says, how are you doing? This is what is going on this week. What do you think about it? Where do you see yourself at the end of this year? And how can I help you get there? It's this conversation that a manager has where they sit down with that employee and they are saying, we care about you. So I have my top 5 management processes that I'm going to be showing you from the library, and we'll start it next week. A lot of those processes, those 5, would help to get all of this. But you can look at your own example of a management philosophy and you can say, if we believe that our managers should manage people with processes, well, how are we going to make that come true? Or if we believe that continuous growth is important, well, how are we going to make that come true? So you have those management processes which allow your philosophy to be a reality, and then you train your managers in it. So next week, let's go back here. Next week, we're going to talk about job descriptions. And job descriptions in TouchStone are a little bit different than normal ones that you would probably see day to day. So a job description in TouchStone is a list of processes. And this is a list for the bookkeeper. So next week, I'm going to show everyone how to build the job descriptions, how they connect inside of TouchStone, how to edit and change them, what their purpose is. And then we're really going to talk about how to use this as a management tool, because the job description is like a backbone for every manager on how to hold employees accountable, how to train them and what to train them on, how to use it for corrective actions if someone's doing something wrong, how to use it to show your employees how great they're doing and what they're doing great on. And then ultimately how to give performance reviews using them, which is really important for every employee. So that will all be next week. There are a few